Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to another edition of International Forum. I am Wilson Omasho. Today, it is all about Russian-Ukraine war. And this time around, Zelensky is seeking for funds. Yes, paucity of funds seems to be what might just tip the scale in the ongoing war against Russia. Don't forget that it's been a year plus now since the invasion of Ukraine, and it has gone into another dimension whereby supporters are beginning to say that they don't have enough money to back up Ukraine. EU right now, they're complaining about paucity of funds. The US, they're like, trying to have a rethink, blocking the bill to give funds to Ukraine, even Israel. They are saying for now they have to take care of themselves. But still, the president of the United States of America, Joe Biden, is giving more hope to Ukraine. After all, Zelensky is there right now trying to make a heartfelt appeal for them to release funding, for them to really marshal out the counter-offensive they'll be having against Russia. I have analysts here with me in the studio. They were expecting to come around in the studio, talking about Matthew Edega, said a legal practitioner. And of course, we also have a legal practitioner all the way from the U.S., Massachusetts. He'll be joining us live after the introduction. But before that, let's take a look at some stories making rounds globally. The first story is what is happening right now between Israel and Gaza, but they call it Israel and Hamas. Yes, the Hamas war. A billionaire in Israel talking about one man, though he's lost his daughter in the war, he said, look, they should seek peace at all means. They should crave for peace. They should make peace the watchword. Don't forget that right now in the EU, they want to make a veto vote saying there must be ceasefire between Israel and Hamas because it's getting too much for aid to get straight down to Gaza, even for the southern part of Gaza. It is so difficult, and Israel is still bombarding. Israel is still fighting. Israel is going from house to house right now, trying to bring out everything that's related to Hamas, even in the war against Hamas. But they are missing one point, according to report. It's like they've not been able to reduce casualty of innocent women, men, and children. Because whenever they go attacking, innocent people are always casualties. I'm saying you get to see a number of men, women, children being killed that has nothing to do with the attack against Israel on October 7. Hence, the EU, led by 20 other Arab countries, in the UN are saying they have to bring a compulsory ceasefire where both parties will cease hostilities for them to marshal out a way to really find a lasting peace. Do you see Israel listening to that plea, or do you see the Hamas group listening to that plea? Because as Israel is fighting, Hamas also they are responding. So who's going to broker peace that will lead to a longer ceasefire? Only time definitely will tell. Moving straight down to Japan, where a case of a female soldier that was molested by 3 of her colleagues. Yes, according to her, Rina Gonoi, she was the one that spoke out openly against what 3 of her male colleagues or counterparts did to her. Yes, she was a soldier in Japan, but there was this case of rape because she said she never consented to it. They just pounced on her, 3 of them. And in Japan, they are so conservative in the sense they're talking about sexual activities, talking about rape. It's like a taboo in the constitution because of their culture. But this brave lady, age 24, came out to tell the world what really happened to her. Now, when the case was first heard, she wasn't given listening ears in the sense that they were like, we have to push it aside because of our conservative nature. But activism and activists came into play. They went to the case and they have to, reawaken the case, and they listened to her. For the very first time in the judgment, they found those 3 soldiers guilty, and definitely they'll be dealt with. Because right now she said if it means her standing alone for the right thing to be done, she's going to stand alone. How can 3 of her colleagues just mount on her? They raped her without her consent, and she's not going to keep quiet. For years the case has been on. Right now, it's like she's singing the song of victory because 3 Japanese ex-soldiers have been found guilty of sexual assault. Yes, let's see what the punishment will be like, because Japan, they don't take it lightly when you talk about all these kind of sexual assault cases. It really, really hurts them. It gets them angry. It gets them to, like, feel the impact of moral decadence, which they don't want to talk about in the society. But kudos to Rina. She persisted, and definitely she won the case. Finally, let's move straight down to the U.S., where the Supreme Court have been asked if an ex-president in America can be charged to court for the activities carried out in his administration. Because some are saying that Donald Trump will be charged to court, and they've asked the Supreme Court to see if this can be done. Because if it's done, that means Donald Trump will be the first American ex-president that this particular action is taken against. Because if you take a look at others, they have this clean bill of health, they have this clean record. After serving the U.S., they are just like left alone. They are left alone to face their family, face their life, face their business. But in this case, Donald Trump is dragged from one court to the other. And it's like I'm saying, is this fair for a former U.S. president to be dragged to court in form of litigation, allegations, and counter-allegations? Don't forget that they are saying that Donald Trump has a hand in what happened in the Capitol. Do you think that it would be right for them to sue Trump because of those things he did while he was the president, not during the election right now? Because there are infractions, and they are saying that he should be charged to court so they can get to hear the impact or the implication of those things that he did while he was at the helm of affairs. So Supreme Court said it's going to give them from now till 20th of December to make that decision. But guess what? According to polls, the Republican, Donald Trump is leading way, way ahead in opinion polls, because the primaries will take place, let's say, in about 4 or 5 weeks now. But the rating of Donald Trump is far, far above all the contending members of the Republican that want to vie for that same #1 seat. If Donald Trump isn't indicted, or just maybe he's scaled through this legal hurdle, he might just emerge the candidate of the Republican. Definitely only time will tell. Let's see what the journey will be like come 20th of December 2023. Right now we'll go on a break. When we return, I'm going to introduce my guest all the way from the U.S., yes, state of Massachusetts. You're going to hear his own points, views, and opinion on what is really happening about Russia-Ukraine war vis-a-vis funding. Because when we talk about war, it's an expensive venture, and money definitely is needed. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is International Forum, taking a look at the Russia-Ukraine war, the issue of funding. Joining me straight from the U.S., from the state of Massachusetts, is Barrister Osaho Osazuwa. Barrister, welcome to International Forum. I appreciate you bringing out time to join us at this time of the day. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Wincy. It is always my pleasure being on this platform.
All right.
Thank you.
Right now, I believe that Zelensky is in the U.S. to talk to the House, and it's all centered around funding for Ukraine to keep pressure or to continue with the counter-offensive against the Russian forces that invaded that territory. How is it going thus far before going into details of the discussion?
Thank you, Wilson. You see, war is a very expensive venture. It's something that requires the greatest effort, both monetarily, emotionally, financially, really, name them. You see, war is something that should be avoided at all costs. But once you are in it, you must ruthlessly. That was the ancient Chinese sage Sun Tzu taught us. Yes, Zelensky is here, he's looking for money to coup the war. But I tell you something, if in the West, if they are feeling the heat of the war, just if Ukraine, if they are feeling the heat of the war financially, you just have to imagine what is happening to Russia. So that's that. Always put that at the back of your mind. Thank you.
All right. So you're talking about what Russia might be going, because Russians right now, they are on the offensive. Now, what do you think led to the pause of fund to the Ukrainians to really defend their territorial integrity in this particular condition, because money has been given to them. Billions of dollars have been given to them. Weapons have been given to them. Why ask for more?
Thank you, Wilson. You see, when you are putting a war, the war effort, it requires enormous financial undertaking. I want you to note, my brother, almost 100 years ago, during the Second World War then cost about $2 trillion. $2 trillion then now, imagine it might be like up to like $80 trillion now. War is a massive financial effort. And the West should have known this before committing to helping the Ukrainians, that the stakes financially will keep rising. And I tell you something, that President Joe Biden acknowledges this fact. And the man is doggedly committed to seeing the Ukrainian through to the end of this war. Because they know, because Biden knows, and Zelensky knows, that if the West is feeling the bite of this war effort, imagine what is happening in Russia. Russia is about to crumble. But Putin will not let you know this. The other day he was launching a nuclear submarine. So just to save face, just as a diversion that, look, we are doing well. But I can tell you for a fact that Russia is feeling the heat as much as the West is feeling it. Yes, war is a massive financial undertaking. And then that's why money will be required from time to time. The monies that we appropriated for the Ukrainians by United States Congress is almost depleted. And it has to be reinforced and reimbursed by the end of this, before the end of this year. And it's so sad, my brother, that some people have decided to play politics with such an existential undertaking. So people have decided to play politics with something that has to do with the future and the shape and the mold and the frame of the human race. Because if, God forbid, we are the likes of Vladimir Putin or the Z of this world, if they should have their way, the world will be radically shaped by their own prospects and by their own vision of how it should be. Just imagine if the Nazis have won the Second World War, what the world will look like today. It will be like a mechanized, tyrannical machine, a mechanized world without love and without feelings. But thank God the Nazis lost, and thank God Vladimir Putin is also going to lose this war.
All right, because at the onset of this war, Putin didn't really hide the fact that he needed money. Now, he went about borrowing from China. He went about also meeting allies to support them with cash and, of course, weaponry that gave rise to the kamikaze drone from Iran. He never hid it. But the question now is it that they are playing politics with Ukraine war? Talking about the U.S., all right, because Republicans are just there on one side saying no to reimbursement, so to speak, or the money is not there. Don't forget about the squabble they had about governors collapsing in the U.S. before they now had to, come to an agreement to raise the ceiling for budget. Is it the money is not there, or someone is busy playing politics with all of this?
Thank you, Winston. I don't know if these guys don't know. Involved in this Ukrainian war efforts. It is really saddening and baffling that they should decide to tie issue of border security with the issue of helping the Ukrainians overcome Russian aggression. It is really sad. It's really sad. Just like the great German philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said, that the range and extent that we think and do is limited by what we fail to notice. And that because we fail to notice that we are failing to notice, there is so little we can do to change. until we notice, are failing to notice, shapes our thoughts indeed. Yes, today, the politicians in the United States, they are failing to notice the existential dynamics of the Ukrainian conflict. They are failing to notice that what we have before us is a straight choice between liberty and tyranny. They are failing to notice that the choice before us today is one of democracy or autocracy. They are failing to notice, my brother, that what we have today, that Ukraine is not just, it's not a war between Ukraine and Russia per se. Ukraine is just a front. Ukraine is the beginning of this conflict. And if, God forbid, Vladimir Putin emerges victorious, it will not stop there. You give the devil an inch, it will ask for two. Give him two, it will come for four. So it has to be stopped now. And President Joe Biden realizes this fact and is ready, resolutely ready to confront this evil called Vladimir Putin and his ambition. The ambition of Putin to reshape and remove the world in his own vision is going to be stopped. And this requires money. And unfortunately, there are some politicians here in the United States who have decided to play politics with this issue, to tie the issue of support for Ukraine with the issue of the border security in the south, to talk about the issue of immigration and all that, because they just want their constituents, they want their voters who they have largely deceived to think they are working for them. But I know when push comes to shove, or when the fist become a bra, they will come down. They will all come down. I know one thing about the West: they know what's at stake, and at the end of the day, the support that Zelensky needs will be given to him. He's having a meeting this morning with President Joe Biden, and they are going to iron out this whole issue. The Speaker Johnson is in on it too, and at the end of the day, they are going to reach a deal that will open the coffers of the United States to the Ukrainian war effort. I tell you something, you know, militarily speaking, you cannot compare the United States with any other nations in the world. The money the US uses for budget, military budget, when you combine the next 50 together, it's not up to what the United States uses spends as far as military budget. The facts are there. You can go check it up. So they have the resources, enormous, almost limitless resources to prosecute this war until victory is given. The question before us is not whether they have the money, it's whether they have the will and the willingness to do it. Whether the Republican Party, the party of God and guns, the party that used to support wars, because it's Joe Biden now on the floor, they are trying to backslide and then to think. They didn't really think when they were going to Iraq, when they knew that Saddam Hussein had nothing, no weapons of mass destruction, that the old man, God may he so rest in peace, he didn't even have nothing hard, not even one gun, nothing. But they went to war, they rained hail and bullets, and they dislodged him. They didn't even think twice in all these things that they have done during the prolonged Vietnamese war of almost 20-something years. But now, because a certain Joe Biden is there, and even realizing the risk that Russia poses, they are kind of backsliding. But we know at the end of the day, the West will come together, and the money required will be given from time to. It's just politics. By the end of today, the direction will be clear, and you realize that Zelensky will go back home with all the money that he wants. I can tell you that for a fact.
All right. Now, if you take a look at the stand of Joe Biden, he is saying that Ukraine, they've not forgotten about Ukraine, that the money definitely will come out. But there seems to be a lot of arm twisting. How do you think Joe Biden will go through all these hurdles and, of course, process of making the money available to Ukraine, not forgetting to mention that the Senate, which has Republicans as majority, and of course a Republican as the president of the Senate, they are not in tune with what Joe Biden is saying in terms of finance to prosecute the counteroffensive by the Ukrainians in the war against Russia.
I think you are talking about the House of Representatives controlled by the Republicans. But for the Senate, the Democrats are still firmly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's talking about the House now. Everybody has, there are a few holders, just a few of them, so-called members of the so-called Freedom Caucus, who have decided to tie the issue of Ukraine with border security and the issue of immigration and all that. So they think they want to be smart by half, but Joe Biden is a negotiator per excellence. He's a deal maker, I'm telling you. So he's going to work out a deal by the end of today that will ensure that the lifeline of monetary support the United States have opened to Ukraine will continue to flow unhindered. I tell you, even these guys, they know that they don't constitute a majority of the Republican Party, members of the Republican Party and their voters. I tell you, they support this war effort. Even when you ask former President Donald J. Trump, he cannot categorically just condemn the whole Ukraine. He hasn't done that, even though he tried to do it this time, because he knows where the voters they are thinking towards. And then I can tell you for sure that the money to prosecute the war will be opened to the Ukrainians. This is it, my brother. This is it. It is a straight choice between tyranny and democracy, between allowing. In fact, let me tell you something. Vladimir Putin will not be given the opportunity to even think he has won this battle, less of actually win the battle. He may have started this war, but he's not going to end it. He's not going to end it. That is the resolution. That is the resolution of the West, and the West, realize that this war has to be prosecuted. As we speak today, the IMF boss Kristalina Georgieva is etching at the deal that will also ensure billions and billions of euros are opened to Ukraine to continue to prosecute this war. War is a huge financial requirement. It is said that money is the sinews, is the muscles of war. So they all know that, and the money will keep coming.
All right, now if we take a look at the situation right now, the U.S. election is fast approaching. Politicians are beginning to politic, and it's like governance, though they have good structure in the U.S., definitely it must go on. Do you see this election as a huge distraction from what is happening between Ukraine and Russia?
Kind of. Yes, kind of. Why I will not say it is completely that way. Yeah, but I will also be factual to say that yes, the election is kind of people are trying to. It's a balancing act.
All right, now, Barrister, you just hold on. Later, you're going to throw more light on this particular question because we want to go for a break. When we return, we'll continue with this discussion. If you just joined us, this is International Forum. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you so much for staying tuned to International Forum, and we're taking a look at the Russian-Ukraine war, the challenges of funding, and all the way from Massachusetts, USA, it's Barrister Osaho Osazua, and of course sharing his thought and his opinion on what is happening right now in the U.S. because Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is in the U.S. right now to solicit for funds. Don't forget that winter is fast approaching. Whatever they need to do it now and fast to have this massive counter-offensive against the Russian forces. Well, Barrister, I know that you are still there with us. I have to cut you short for this break, and please throw more light on the distraction being caused by the forthcoming election in the U.S.
Yes, like I was trying to say, you see, it is a balancing act because there are some that that genuinely believe it's never a good thing. We call them the pacifists. It is a thinking that war should be avoided at all costs. Just like JFK, former President JFK said that there was never ever a good war or a bad peace. Honestly, it's my thinking too, because of the misery and the pain, incomprehensible human suffering with that thing, war. Some of those unfortunate it's about the most unfortunate inventions of the human species. How they come about to know war is baffling. So there are some who think that war should be avoided. Some of these also in the U.S. Senate and in the U.S. House, in the U.S. politics generally, who think that this war should be brought about. War should come very quickly. But that's that. But what does history teach us? Lessons I've learned from conflicts throughout the centuries. Clear. What Biden is trying to make them know. Those that there are some who like to prey on our human weakness and sentiment and emotions. To prey on our love for peace and brotherhood, on our love for quietude and prosperity without rancor, without war, without altercations, and without any form of destruction. There are some, unfortunately, they are born to be tyrants. Like Hitler said, the man who is born to be a tyrant is not led. He leads. He's not driven forward. He drives himself. So those people, we still have them today, the likes of Vladimir Putin, who thinks that might is right, and that by force of arm he can twist his neighbors and take their land, like all the autocrats from Genghis Khan to Adolf Hitler who have come before him have tried to do. He is there, and that the lessons that history have taught us that such men have to be stood up to. Evil has to be confronted with force. And it has been an unfortunate lesson that history has taught us that we have to confront evil, even at the price of great human suffering. That's how it is. There will always be casualties of war. War is not a good thing, but once it begins, we have to ruthlessly complete it. So, if that was happening in the Second World War when we were appeasing Hitler, Hitler took some dental land from then Czechoslovakia. They said, oh, it has some German heritage. Let him have it. But he took some land from Poland. He was just going forward until they realized this guy was never ever going to stop. So that's that time, and they don't stop. That guy, you forget that 2014, almost 10 years ago, he took Crimea. And the world thought, okay, Crimea has a strong historical connection to the motherland, what they call it, Godina. So they let him have it. And then he started waging a fierce war. That's in 2014 in the eastern Donbass region, trying to claim for some land that has Russian historical antecedents. So that's the way they think. And if he gets those places, he goes forward. He has to be confronted sooner rather than later. Because if you allow him to grow, like what allowed Hitler to grow and became so powerful, you know the price they paid for it. Almost 60 million God's children were lost in that most brutal encounter and that mankind plunged themselves into. Because they didn't confront Hitler soon enough. They didn't stop him when he was taking land from Czechoslovakia. They didn't stop him when we were announcing Austria and saying that Austria and Russia are one nation. Nobody stopped him. They were trying to go sentimental. They were saying, like, give peace a chance, that no, war should be avoided. Yes, war should be avoided, but once it comes upon us, we have to fiercely confront it. So I think that despite the political shenanigans that is going on right here in the United States, sooner rather than later, these guys will come about and they will confront this evil. Because if you allow Putin to grow, if you allow him to grow and make a kind of a strategic partnership with Russia, with China and North Korea, then we have a bigger evil. We must break these guys. The West must have to break them sooner than later and let them realize that brotherhood is possible. If you have, to keep peace, you must be ready for war. You must show your opponents or your enemies, so to speak, that you will meet their capacity for evil with a stronger capacity for evil. that you can inflict more damage than they could ever done. That is the only language they listen to, the language of force, that you can do much more than they can do. So let the West continue to confront Vladimir Putin. Ukraine is just a front. Ukraine is not everything. Ukraine is the first strike. Ukraine is soon the land of 1933. That's where it began. So if we allow him to grow, the guy will start growing. The West must confront him, and they must stop him now. Imagine he thought he was going to take a ride into Ukraine and come back on the other side. Then in a few days, we were saying that even if 48 hours that Ukraine was going to fall, my brother, how long have the war been going on today? Because evil was stood up to. And I commend the Ukrainian people, and I commend the West, and I commend the strong force, the area of force. Imagine, Vladimir Putin and the Russian military have been demystified. We have seen that these guys don't have what we think they have. The capacity we accrued to the Russian military forces, they don't have it. These guys have been beaten blue black. I'm telling you, by just Ukraine. Of course, with the support of the West. That support will continue to flow, my brother. All
right. Now, if you take a look at the vote, 49 to 51. 49 says yes, 51 says no. And that is where they are right now until things changes in the House. You think the president might just use his executive power to take out money from the coffers to give to Zelensky to go prosecute his war against Russia and not to chase them out of Ukraine?
Yes, like we have agreed to choose of funding for Ukraine. Some good-natured and well-intentioned U.S. politicians, they kind of want a roadmap. Where does this lead? It must not go on ad infinitum. There must be a terminus at King and a terminus at Cool. There must be a point of and a point of arrival. How does this end? We can't continue to plunge billions and billions of taxpayers' money to the Ukrainians. They want a blueprint. They want a roadmap. Where does this lead? How does this end? So it is normal. And I understand and I sympathize with them. But people like Putin don't want to know that. What they know and what they reason is power. They must not be given that power, that force. They need to starve them of that is here. But I realize that struck very soon, so that all this stuff will become obtuse and that the Ukrainians will have the money they need. Putin knows exactly what to do. J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, the new senator, he was saying that Ukraine has to cede some land to Russia just for the sake of peace. I don't know. You should think that somebody who is a senator in the United States Senate should know better, should have a sense of history. That you don't give land to dictators. You don't cede land to them. You are encouraging them. They will go for more. So he thinks that if he has the land he wants now, maybe the Donetsk or the Donbass region, it will go back to the Kremlin, to Moscow, and say, okay, I'm done. No, they don't think so. Soon they will enter Georgia. They have always had Russia has a lot of ambition on Georgia and the disputed region. Then, of course, we know what happened in, what do they call this place, in the north, the Islamic side, what do they call this place? I forgot it now. So they also have ambition there. They have ambition. So they want those lands. Putin thinks he has an historical and a divine order to reunite the old former Soviet Empire, to bring back the glory of the great Soviet Empire. And Ukraine, which has always been the food basket of the Soviet Union, is the first strategic nation to fall back to this empire. And it thinks that this divine destiny that God has bestowed upon him to bring back the glory of the Soviet Union must begin with the Ukraine. And you think that guy is going to stop by ceding some land to him in eastern Ukraine? No, it's never going to stop. It's going to go from one point to the other trying to get what he wants.
All
So
right.
that's just it.
All right.
That's
Now, if you take a look at the situation right now of Ukraine, because of there's a quest for money to propagate the war against Russia's invasion, apart from the US, he went to the EU. And the EU also had a similar complaint, paucity of funds. Because according to reports, like the EU is carrying the load more than they could bear. And this load they are carrying, taking care of a whole union, is really draining the purse of the EU. Hence, they don't have enough money to support Ukraine. Now, two of their allies complaining about funding. How do you think all this will pan out?
Yes, and honestly, we see it is to be expected. It's not a monolithic body per se. We have various groups and dissenting voices. There are the conservatives, there are the liberals are there, there are the nationalists are there. It's a concatenation or a cornucopia or a motley, if you want, of different and varying bodies, different schools of thought, coming from different backgrounds and different vision of how to govern. This are to be expected. Of course, we have one or two that will say, look, the money going to Ukraine should be better spent for this, be better spent for that. But what are the alternatives? Alternatives to defunding the Ukrainian war effort. To go there, you don't have to think about it. But the alternative, that you think that Putin will take Ukraine and go and relax? No, it will go from Ukraine. It will take Poland. It will take Georgia. It will take all the former Soviet Union that borders on the west. Then it will go to the north. So that's just the alternative. And then realizes this. You embolden the dictator by ceding to him, by even making any deals whatsoever. It's like a terrorist. You don't negotiate with those guys. By negotiating, that's why Nigeria is where we are today with this Boko Haram and all those things. But they keep negotiating with them. They keep. Let's not even go there. So evil, my brother, has to be confronted. And that is why Vladimir Putin is being confronted today. Yes, there are logistical and financial issues involved. Issues of finance, issues of how do we keep prosecuting the war? Because money is limited, especially with the European Union. But at the end of the day, all this we get ironed out, and the war effort will continue.
All right, because opponents are like saying that this might just be the beginning of the end of the execution of this war against Russia. Winter, in fact, they are in winter already. Winter is here. If you want to take a look at that, if you take a look at the season that we're in right now, whether believe it or not, winter is already here. And right now, the Ukrainians don't have money to marshal out the counteroffensive that they ought to have marshaled out a long time ago. Some are saying this is the beginning of the end for the Ukrainians in this war. Do you agree to that school of thought?
I don't agree at all. you know something. The West, they like to, they want the way they feel, my brother. Talk about Russia now. What's happening in Russia? What's happening to the Russian army? Why are they deserting and running away, dropping their guns and surrendering to Ukrainian forces? My brother, are they not eating soft target? Just yesterday, they eat some target fire away from the war front. Homes, just dropping drums on homes and defenseless, because that's desperation. They know that something big is about to hit them. They much talked about Ukrainian winter offensive is about to go on. And I tell you this issue about funding is just a tactical misdirection to get Russia to look the other way. Coming few weeks, there's going to be a major. You can quote me on this. A major Ukrainian offensive. It has been planned for a very long time. You think they don't have the money to prosecute it? Yes, maybe they don't have the money now to prosecute that offensive on the scale they have always planned. A very massive, large scale. And dislodge the Russian from the Donbass region. Scale. So what they want is to make it on a very big scale, so that they inflict a kind of wound on Vladimir Putin that will make him to rethink again.
But to say that the war effort is floundering on the issue of finance is to miss the point. To say that the war effort is floundering on the issue of monetary grants is also to miss the point. It's a tactical diversion we are talking about. Very soon, Ukraine is going to get that major offensive that they have been planning all year long. And of course, they also know that Russia is feeling it fiercely, so much so that they are not dropping some bombs and drone attacks on defenseless, innocent people. Just, you know why? Just to tell the Ukrainians that if you do this offensive, we have the capacity to inflict injuries on sub targets.
But some are saying that is tactical in war. They are saying that is tactical in war. You have to, do one or two things to at least cause some kind of a distraction or wounding your opponent in terms of the game called war.
But the Geneva Convention that you cannot and you must not deliberately let civilians. That is, it's not going to call it scare tactics. It's Scotch air tactics. The same very tactics that Hitler used when he entered the historical irony, when he entered the same Russia in the winter of 1942. It is the same tactics. Operation Barbarossa, as it was termed then by the Nazis, was a Scotch air policy that when you enter, nothing life, don't leave any life behind. No human life, no animal life, no even insect life. So that is tactics that Putin is trying to employ now to drop bombs on defenseless civilians population, because he has lost the battle in the war front. He cannot longer confront the superior Ukrainian army with their Western supply military hardware that is bringing down Russian jets and drones. The other day, you see the target that the drone target that Ukraine launched. It was an audacious move. They have the capacity now. All they just need is that long. Because when you begin a war, when you begin a major offensive like the one they are planning, you need a huge financial base. The money has to be there, not promissory money. That no, we'll give you 2 billion, we'll give you 1 trillion. No, you have to have it at hand before you begin. Because once you start, you cannot stop. If you stop, all your gains, all the tactical gains you might have gained will be reversed as quickly as you before you know it. That is why they want the money to be at hand before they start this major counter offensive, or what they call the winter offensive.
All right. Well, before we call it a wrap on this show, Barrister, I'm talking for almost 1 hour now. What advice do you have for the EU, the US, and of course the Ukraine that are just there feeling the heat of this war?
Yes, it is for the European Union. The European Union has always baffled me. In fact, when I think about the European Union, the thing that comes to my mind is what they call the toothless bulldog. That's what the European Union. And for once, Donald J. Trump was very right when he talked about pulling out from certain military assistance to Europe. Or to have a strong military, a strong economy. When it comes to
all right, it's like we are losing contact there. We've just lost contact, but when we re-establish contact, definitely we might just hear his own last line of this discussion. Sometimes these things do happen. He's calling via Zoom on the way from Massachusetts, USA, sharing his thoughts and, of course, his opinion on this particular discussion. From what he said right now you can liken the EU to a toothless bulldog. Yes, because the EU is saying that they don't have enough money to marshal out or give to Ukraine to continue with the offensive. Maybe they're making plans or two to bring out this money, but it's like they don't have it right now. How do you think all this will pan out? Yes, on the other hand, it was a case of vote 49 to 51. 51 said no, 49 says yes. If you go by democracy, The 51 definitely will have it. They're saying no more money. Where does Ukraine stand in all of this? To the extent that Zelensky just needed to take a trip straight down to the U.S. to speak to their mind, to speak to their conscience, because they really need money to marshal out this counter offensive. How will all this pan out? Without money.
Recording in progress.
Without money. All right, now I believe that we have a Barrister Osahon Osazua back right now. So, Barrister, please, briefly, within the next 2 minutes, the advice you have for these three, how would I put it now, bodies responsible in measuring out the counter-offensive against Russia vis-a-vis EU, US, and the Ukrainians.
Yes, before the interruption, I was talking about the EU, that the EU has kind of relinquished our responsibility in terms of military and even economy to the United States. The time has come for them to start handling issues at their background without necessarily involving the United States. They can do it. The UK, Germany, France, these are big, to a large extent some big economies. They can handle their issues. They can rebuild their military and do something to ensure their border. Because when it all comes down now, God forbid Putin takes Ukraine, it's going to make a large incursion into European Union land, and then NATO may have to come in again. That's for the European Union. And then for the Ukrainians, I have nothing but commendation and praise for these people. These people have demonstrated that tyranny and the oppressor has to be confronted. And I praise them for their gallant spirit, their high commandery, and their resolution to ensure that they stop Vladimir Putin. They have inflicted unimaginable and unthinkable injuries, so to speak, on the Russian army. And for that, I commend them. And for the United States, I will employ them that to continue to open their deep pockets for efforts until victory is attained.
Thank you so much, Barrister Emmanuel Osahon Osazua, for spending this time with us. Thank you so much for a wonderful analysis on point. Let's see how all this will eventually be in favor of the Ukrainians, because winter is here. Take it or leave it, winter is here. And when we talk about war is money-consuming venture. War is big business, and billions of dollars is still needed to execute all of this assault that will definitely, if we're coordinated, push Russia away from Ukraine. All they need right now is money. Money. EU says no money. You say we just can't give you enough money because we have to pass through parliament and all that. We don't have money yet. How do you think the Ukrainians will hold on against the mighty assault of Russia? I'll also report back to you on events happening globally on the international forum. We'll do it again next week, Tuesday, God willing. Bye for now.